Hey, how many people are watching this?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اتل ما أوحي إليك من الكتاب وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Recite what has been revealed to you of the book and maintain the prayer. Indeed, the prayer restrains from indecent and wrongful conduct, and the remembrance of Allah is surely greater, and Allah knows whatever deeds you do. Ayah 45, Surah Al-Ankabut, the 29th Surah of the Quran. Recite the second salawat. I think the second salawat is always the lowest one, so recite your third salawat a little bit louder. For the previous nights, we've been talking about and discussing the topic of understanding the logic behind the movement of Ashura. Or in other words, understanding Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam just a little better, right? So tonight, inshallah, we'll continue along the same path, using the sayings of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, such as the sermons that he has said, or the short and brief recommendation that he had for some of the companions. We talked about, for example, if you want to get to know someone, if you want to get to know how they think, if you want to understand how they think, we have to, number one, take a look at their actions and then find the connections between their action and their thoughts, and from their thoughts to their goals and purposes, and, for example, the vision that they have. Then and only then we can kind of get an understanding of why have the person or has the person done such a thing, right? And then we also said if you want to follow a person, if you want to choose someone as a role model, and if you want to follow that person, we actually have to understand the mindset of the person in order not to only follow by the act, but actually follow by our mindset as well. So we become like the person, not just by following footstep by footstep, but actually understanding every footstep that we follow that person. Then we talked about that the entire universe that we're living in is consists of different movements. Everything that we see, it is changing, it is moving from point A to point B. If you look at ourselves, we're constantly growing. The physical part of us is constantly growing. It's changing from one phase to another phase. We were a little toddler, then we became a little bit younger, we became a youth, then we become older and older and older, and this circular motion continues to grow. What about the spiritual part? And then we mentioned this as well. If we take a look at ourselves, if you just contemplate within ourselves, we find this second part of us, which has been with us since day one, and it continues to grow, and it continues to learn more, it continues to become wise as we age and as we get older, right? So we can conclude that human has two sides. Now, talking about the movement, every movement we can say has a definite objective, right? If there is no objective, there is no motive. If there is no motive, there is no movement. So the first step for any movement to actually happen is to define the objective of that movement, and number two, define the motive or the motivation for that movement. Also, we say life, as we see it in general, has a movement, and it has its own objective, right? So when we are living, here becomes two parts. one being the universe, one being us. We are living in the universe, right? We have our own objectives, which we can change, which we have control over, and then we have the universe, which has its own goal, its own purpose, and is moving towards that purpose, and we have no control over the purpose of the universe. So now what can we do? We can either go along and according with the purpose of the universe and the creation, or we can say, I don't want to do it, I want to do my own thing, I don't care about the universe, I don't care about the purpose of the creation, and I just want to go based on whatever I feel it's the right thing to do. So two different viewpoints, right? And inshallah tonight we're going to discuss that. Which one of these two is the viewpoint of the faithful person, inshallah. Recite another salawat. Now, before I get into explaining the viewpoints in details, I would like to raise this topic that if we decide to say that I don't trust in anything else, I don't care about what the universe is doing, I'm living my own life, right? I'm doing my own stuff, and I'm good at it. You know, I'm achieving success. I'm getting better in my school. I have very good wishes for my future. So now, if I have this sort of a vision for myself to become better and become more successful in the future, what is it going to happen? Here comes the topic of realities versus, you can say, unrealities, or realities versus the mirage. Like, what's the difference between how a faithful person acts in life and how an unfaithful person acts in life? What is the difference? If you look from the outside, you can see both of them are working, right? Both of them are studying. Both of them have family and kids. Both of them, for example, buy a house, buy a car, right? So what's the difference between the faithful and unfaithful? For example, when we look at the history, you can see Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam take on the shovel, he goes out, he makes gardens. He goes out, he digs a well, right? So what's the difference? Amir al-Mu'mineen works, and for example, I work as well. What's the difference, right? Or Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam works, other people work as well. What's the difference between the action? From the surface, work is work. Work is good, right? So that's why everybody works, either to pay the bills, or they work to actually achieve something. They work to move up the ladder of their career. Different purposes. Here's when we talk about what is real and what is unreal. What do I mean by this? We say that every person, depending on how they are seeing the universe, they make their decisions. And the decisions are actually what will make up their personality. So how they look at the world is actually going to have direct impact on their decision. Right? So how would a faithful person see the world? How would a mu'min see the world? And how would, for example, a disbeliever see the world, right? When we are selecting a job, what are the criterions we use in order to choose what is the best job for us? What are the criterions a believer might choose, in order to select his job? In Islam, pretty much you're allowed to do a lot of jobs, except very few jobs which are forbidden, and some of the jobs which are not highly recommended, right? But for the disbelievers, of course, the only that talks is money. Basically, money talks. Is there any other difference? We say yes. We say the faithful, when he wants to choose something, when he wants to make a decision, what does he look at? He looks at the long run. He looks at the long effect of his decision, meaning reconcile between this dunya and the akhirah, between this world and hereafter. He tries to kind of use this dunya as the mean to build the hereafter. Versus the disbeliever, versus the kafir, what does he do? He just sees the dunya as the dunya. He sees, the entire existence as what he feels at the moment. You probably have heard this expression, live it as it is, or enjoy it as it is. Meaning just, all you see is this. There is no hereafter, there is no resurrection, and you're going to be here, alive for a specific given time, and then that's it. It's just like flicking off a click. It will be all finished. So if he's looking at the world in this, what is he going to do? He's going to try to make the best thing at any given cost. This is the disbeliever. What about the mu'min? We say no, because he sees the long goal, he sees the long vision. Then it comes different, held accountable for, right? I have to answer back one day. I have to tell why did I do this, right? As you all know, we have in the hadith that they ask about our youth, you know, what did and why, and that's one of the major questions that is pretty hard to answer as well. Did you spend your youth time just playing around? Did you spend your youth time just hanging out with the friends, going out and just wasting the time as we speak, or did you put it into a good use, right? So the faithful knows this. The faithful knows that the death is not the end. He knows that the death is actually just the beginning. The beginning of what? The beginning of seeing the results of every single action in this world. So that's how it's going to affect his decisions a lot. Let me give you a little story after reciting aloud salawat. Now, this story has been narrated by Shahid Mutahari. Those of you who don't know him, he's one of the greatest scholars in Islam. And he actually narrates the story from another great scholar, Ayatollah Burujerdi. Ayatollah Burujerdi is the one who actually revived the Hawza of Qom. And actually a lot of foreign scholars, they have called him the sole marja in the Shia world from 1945 until his death, which was in 1961. So imagine, such a great scholar such as Ayatollah Burujerdi, right? Shahid Mutahari says, I went to see him towards the end of his life, and Ayatollah Burujerdi a couple of days and then so Shahid Mutahari said to his house, and I found him, he was feeling very down, he was feeling depressed, he was feeling sense. So I told him and asked him, what has happened to you? You're Ayatollah Burujerdi, right? And then, you should be happy because you have done so much. You have accomplished, so much. You look at you look at all these students, you look at all these muballighs, all these alims that, you have trained and you have helped, make them an alim that they are today. So you pretty much said, why are you, not happy at this time? And then the Shaykh Ayatollah Burujerdi looked at me and then he thought for a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds and then he said this, meaning that you have to purify your deed. Why? Because the person or the one who analyzes your deeds, who sees your deeds, who reviews your deeds, he is very sage. He is very sage. He was not in his meaning he was not happy about stuff that he has done. So if you just want to do a little comparison, right, from ourselves to someone like Ayatollah Burujerdi, the end of his time, he's telling us that I am going from this world to the hereafter handed. So that should give us, that how hard it is, the journey that we have ahead of us. Recite another salawat.